Man. First round of the NFL draft is in the books. 2026 NFL draft is in the books. I am Bucky Brooks. This is Move the Sticks, and I got my guy making his debut to the program, Mike Yammer. Yammer is a little uncomfortable because he's used to being a ball-dominant guard, but I got him moved off the ball so we can have the podcast going. Yammer, how was it?
It was a ton of fun. You're right. Thrilled to be with you. I'm used to playing the one and just setting people up here a little bit. So I'll flip the tables at some point and let you do the tosses to break and the intros here. But this is kind of your time to shine, man. I know it's months and months you and I working on Mock Draft Live throughout the course of the pre-draft process. We were in Dallas for the East-West Shrine Bowl and you analyzing the tape, doing Mock 15.0, and yet
so crazy.
And now it's a wrap, man.
It is a wrap, and it's funny. We do all of this work, and then the first round really flies by. I think about how fast it was. I mean, it was just a little over 3 hours. We go through all the picks, and just overview, because you're running point guard over our broadcast draft center that was on everything. Just overview. Like, it's so weird to see those 32 picks fly by. What are your thoughts?
So, by the way, can we just talk about for a second here how fast that went with the drop down to 8 minutes between each pick? So sign me up. I knew that was coming and certainly was excited for us. But you're right. Like, there was so much. There wasn't drama at one, and we all kind of felt like, hey, at number two, that's when things would kick up with that Jets pick. And the Jets, I think in a lot of ways, Buck, probably making the most noise of any team. I know the Chiefs obviously moved up. They felt good, and we'll talk about their selection in just a minute here. But it's hard not to look at what Gang Green did. It was a horrific season a year ago. Felt like they really were able to focus in on a couple of those needs. And the fact that they were aggressive, trading back into the first round, to me, I think that was sort of the home run here. But the speed of the draft definitely felt fast for me as we were going through some of these picks and all these trades that we kept seeing. I thought it was a pretty remarkable night.
Yeah, it was a remarkable night. And the thing about it, because you talked about the Jets, and we'll jump right into the Jets. Fernando Mendoza going one, that was to be expected. But then when you look at the Jets, first at two, they take David Bailey, the edge rusher from Texas Tech. Then they come back at 16, take Kenyon Sadiq. And then they finish by going, trading up to number 30 and taking Omar Cooper. It's a really interesting haul to think about what they did with those three picks. So you get the edge rusher that you need to help a defense that was, look, it was awful. They couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't get turnovers. So you get David Bailey. You then turn around and try and figure out, like, hey, how can we fix this offense? We got some pieces, but how did we complete it? Kenyon Sadiq being your tight end to match up with Mason Taylor. And then you go and get Omar Cooper, who joins Isaiah Bond and Garrett Wilson on the outside. I look on paper, the Jets offense looks rocking and ready to go when you think about Reese Hall and Braylon Allen being able to go.
So I think what's sort of interesting here, and when we were doing Draft Center, I asked you this question about when you are so deficient and you have so many issues and a lot of holes to fill, do you start thinking to yourself, all right, number two, we have a pretty good sense of where we're going here. And then after, you would say to me, it depends on where the draft ends up falling. And I'm looking at what some of these selections could have been. I thought there was going to be an opportunity for two defensive players for the Jets to be taken in round number one. But when the best tight end is available and there's such a massive drop-off and it is a need, it made sense for them to go there. There's a part of me that's surprised that it was two offensive players and not two defensive players that they went and selected in round number one.
Yeah, so that means that Aaron Glenn must feel good about where they can get to, not only the rest of the draft, but some of the people that they brought in. Remember, they made some trades. T'Vondre Sweat comes in. They bring DeMario Davis over. They get a trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick. So they feel like they have more veteran leadership in the building. Offensively, Geno Smith comes over to play quarterback. You talk about an experienced player, a Pro Bowl player who now has people to throw to, and they still want to be able to run the football. On paper, it looks like a much improved team. We'll see how it plays out. I want to go to your point, though. You talk about the dominoes falling and how things kind of changed. And we talked about the draft really starts at number 3. Jeremiah Love going to the Arizona Cardinals. It had been talked about the last couple of days, the Cardinals taking that pick, but still we were so locked in thinking, man, this is going to be David Bailey or Arvell Reese. The Cardinals taking Jeremiah Love then set off it triggered a bunch of dominoes. And from that point on, it was chaotic the rest of the draft.
So what's wild to me is we do so many mocks, right? Like I joked and said that you did 15 of them. You did 4 of them that are on NFL.com. Lance Erline, who we were working with, did 4 of them. And then we had some other experts sprinkle in some of their mocks. You joked at the top of the show. He was like, oh yeah, like you're good. You just look at my 4.0, my last one, and that's how it will lay out. I think I had, this is probably why I would never get a job in a front office. I had it in my head that it was going to go one way, and didn't really anticipate. The Bailey thing was one thing. Love at 3, and look, I come from the lens of being a Giants fan, so I was sort of analyzing, like, hey, how could this thing fall for us? The Tate selection at 4, for me, is where things sort of flipped. Saleh comes in, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to go defense here, and I just kind of feel like and you know this because you analyze all these guys, I didn't see them going with Carnell Tate. I didn't see them going wide receiver. I thought if Jeremiah Love was available or it was another defensive player, that was what the decision was going to be. It never dawned on me wide receiver was going to be the direction they go. And people might say, oh, they got Cam Ward. Of course they're going to put pieces around him. I just felt like you could get a wide receiver later.
Yeah, I am surprised. And this is the 4th pick was where it turned. Even when you looked at the pick predictor, I think on ESPN, it might have been 0.4% had Carnell Tate going to the Tennessee Titans. And I understand why, because we always talk about having the guy grow together with the young quarterback, and then you have Wan'Dale Robinson, Carnell Tate, Calvin Ridley. Offensively, they look better on paper. You should find a way to do it. Tony Pollard at running back. Maybe they can get this offense up and going. But Arvell Reese was staring you dead in the face. Sonny Styles also staring you dead in the face, and the Tennessee Titans opted not to address their defense by taking the offensive player. My only thing, and I love Carnell Tate as a player. I thought route running, everything, he was number 2 receiver on my board. The challenging going from being a number 2 in college to potentially a number 1 in the pros. How quickly can he adapt to the new responsibilities that go along with that? And young receiver, young quarterback, normally when you think about the jumps that these elite quarterbacks have made, it tends to go young quarterback, experienced receiver until the quarterback gets older. Then you pair him with a young guy. Can these 2 young guys, Cam Ward and Carnell Tate, grow together and quickly ignite this offense?
Yeah, but there's such a track record for Ohio State when you think about these first-round guys that kind of come through. I mean, it's like 5 consecutive years now. 4 was the record to have the position being drafted by one school, Ohio State, and it's all dudes. It's dude after dude after dude. It's highly productive guys. And there's like a support here, right? Like as soon as that selection gets made, JSN goes to social media and is like flexing and is thrilled about it. That pedigree, I got to imagine, is also the reason why there's so much comfort level for the Titans to go and make that selection.
I mean, you just talked about the pedigree. I mean, so many times, like Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Emeka Ibuka, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I mean, 5th straight year, Ohio State have had a wide receiver in the top 20. That is crazy. But let's get to it. Like, I mean, look, let's talk about your team for a little bit.
Yeah.
At 5, Arvell Reese comes off the board. They didn't double up or follow it up with Francis Mauigoa at 10. Okay, coming into it, you had a little expectation on what your team was going to do. How close was this to the expectation?
Not close. Not close. To be honest with you, and it was actually funny, before we started the draft, we were grabbing food upstairs. I was talking to a couple of people here at HQ, and they said, hey, like, what would you be happy? And I would have loved for Jeremiah Love to fall there. But the other guy that I felt great about was Caleb Downs. I said, hey, man, if we get this guy at 5, how could you not? Mm-hmm. Championship defense, smartest guy on that defense, highly productive, great pedigree. I just felt like that would have made sense. Now, he ends up going and staying in that division, which I don't think Giants fans or really any of the team, whether it's Washington as well, can't be, or Philly, happy about Downs going there. But Arvell Reese, and here's what I would love to get your take on, because when I go and we watch practices together and we see some of these college showcases, a lot of times the job of the scouts is to project, right? Like, hey, what could this guy be? And you did this for a living. You've been in those draft rooms. You understand sort of the scouts' view of things. Reese, to me, I kept hearing about ceiling, upside. I've covered multiple sports. I've covered multiple drafts in various sports, and I've heard that phrase used before. How do we sit there and project and feel so confident that Reese, we keep hearing ceiling? What are you looking for? Like when you watch the tape, when you see these guys in person, what was it about Arvell Reese that had you thinking like, hey, this is a great selection? I think in your last mock, you had him too going to the Jets. You loved his ability, but everyone says there's so much more that he's capable of doing.
Well, so much more because you only seen him do it for 1 year. If you really think about it, he was a 1-year starter. And in that 1 year, he flashed a lot of big-time potential in terms of off-ball linebacker who also rushed off the edge. He had 6.5 sacks. He did that early in the season. Then it kind of dried up in terms of being able to get the sack production. But you just see the athlete that he is. You see how fast he plays. The instincts and those things are not like right now in terms of being able to read and diagnose, but he's only played the position for 1 year. That is why it would be important for them to slot him into, I think, one position, let him get good at that position before they put more on his plate. Secondly, what is that position? Because in his mind, Arvell Reese has said, I'm an edge rusher. Well, when I look at the Giants' depth chart, I see a bunch of guys already there. Brian Burns, I see Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, all those guys playing on edge. So can he go to off-ball linebacker and make that impact? When I text some buddies, they said, think Micah Parsons, think the creativity that they can utilize to help him be a big factor. That is going to be interesting. And then when you go to the second pick, Francis Mauigoa. And I like this because
it makes sense.
It did make sense. Yeah. And look, Adam Schefter tweeted out that they're going to move him to right guard and put him in that lineup, and they're going to get big. To me, that's the John Harbaugh pick. That's the John Harbaugh effect. We're going to run the football. We're going to be physical at the point of attack. We're going to bully people, and we're going to play like the Giants have played when they've traditionally been well. It has always been for the Giants when they're good. Strong offensive line, great defense, manufacture points on offense, but it was the defense and the running game that leads the way. They're now set up to do that under John Harbaugh.
And the frustration level of watching the health the last couple seasons on that offensive line, I've used the phrase a revolving door at the offensive line for the Giants. It has been tough to watch. So to be able to solidify a guy for Jackson Dart, who clearly is the future of this franchise. You know you have your quarterback. There's moments where he's taken off outside the pocket where you just get concerned, like about his health, the amount of hits that he's gone and taken. I to your point, this has the Harbaugh fingerprints on this draft.
And look, you know I can't let you talk about the Giants without moving to the Cowboys. And I'll acknowledge Mansfield Delane, Kansas City, that's a nice pick. Sonny Styles going to the Redskins. Not the Redskins, the Commanders. Sorry. Jordan Tyson's new uniforms got me.
You love Tyson, by the way.
I do love him, and I do like that pick going there. But I'm going to tell you, the one that I love, and is one of my top 5 picks in terms of that I love, Caleb Downs going to the Dallas Cowboys at 11. They follow it up later in the first round, taking Malachi Lawrence. I know this pains you tremendously to think about the Dallas Cowboys being able to get a safety like Downs and then coming back, getting a pass rusher. Initial thoughts about that NFC East?
Yeah, look, you and I were joking off air about this. Downs is a guy that I want on my team. No matter what fan base you are, like he's the dude that you want. When you think about a freshman at Alabama playing for Nick Saban, leading the team in tackles at that, it's just wild. And by the way, it was over 100 tackles. That was 40 more than the second place guy, right? So he played for Nick Saban. Then he goes to Ohio State, continues to ball out. Patricia's there as their DC, calling plays in understanding using the acumen, right? Like the more people that you talk to, got a lot of friends that cover the Big Ten Conference. Hey, what was it like around this guy? What did you pick up? And not only was it the numbers and the physical traits, but everyone under the helmet, what he brings to the table, the smarts there. Dallas had so many issues on the defensive side. I love what they did. Downs there, but think about how aggressive they were. And they kind of had to be, right? Like you trade Micah Parsons and you sit there and you go, hey, like we just changed basically the face of our franchise outside of Dak, right? Gary comes in, pulled off the trade for Quinnen Williams, who I love last season. Now Downs, like I feel like they've been able to patch things together relatively quickly. I'm not saying they're back to the playoffs, but my God, like I think that's got to be what the expectation level is.
It has to be the expectation. Caleb Downs giving them that playmaker in the middle of the field. But I would say probably the more important pick in terms of getting right would be Malachi Lawrence. What can he add to this defense? Christian Parker taking over the defense. They want to get after it. They're not going to bring a lot of pressure, so they're really counting on the front four to be able to get it done. Malachi Lawrence, 20 career sacks, 3 forced fumbles. The effort, the energy is there. He's a terrific athlete. How do they maximize him? And I think about the veterans that they have on their front line: Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams.
Yeah.
He is going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups. How many of those can he convert to sacks?
Hey, by the way, just from a Philly-Dallas perspective, you surprised they pulled off a trade? Philly moved up.
I mean, I would never want to help my division rival, but sometimes the player is the player. If you're the Cowboys and you're trying to figure out how can we get the players that we want, you make those moves. How can we get the capital? Philly made the call. It's not the first time that they've done a deal. Philly moving up 3 spots to get Micah Lemon at 20. It made a lot of sense for the Philadelphia Eagles, given what we anticipate happening in June when they move on from A.J. Brown. Micah Lemon being the best slot receiver in the draft, adding him to a lineup that already features Hollywood Brown and a bunch of other guys, Devonta Smith. We'll see how it matches up, but they needed to get him. He's a route runner. He's a playmaker. He has versatility. This is interesting when I look at it, but you know what else is interesting? I would say maybe the most polarizing pick of the first round.
Oh, I know where you're going.
I mean, I have to go here because your reaction. Ty Simpson going 13 to the LA Rams. Ty Simpson, second team All SEC, threw for 3,500 yards, 28 touchdowns in his only season as a starter. He goes to be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. Thoughts?
There's a lot to unpack here. Number one, so Chase Daniel, who we used to work with, good buddy, he was actually on Chase's show, and I texted Chase and was like, "Hey, like, how do you feel about the dude?" And I trust Chase's eyes, and I know he feels like he can be a really good starting quarterback. Based off of your position, 13th overall pick, there was buzz. I mean, how many mock draft lives did I ask you at the end? Hey, do you think a team is Ty Simpson go in the first round? And the responses generally have been, hey, you're probably going to move into the first round, right? Back half of that first round is where we would see it. Most of the mocks had Los Angeles taking a wide receiver here. Yep. It was one of the needs, air quotes, for this team. Buck, you see the Rams the way I did last year, second best team in the NFL, arguably the best team, and I know Seattle got there. You are right there. And to me, when you're that close, you put the chips in the middle of the table. I've seen teams before the trade deadline like last year, Colts, they went all in. Hey, we'll bring in sauce. We'll give you a couple first rounders for it. I've seen moves like that, and I applaud the teams that are aggressive. Kansas City, by the way, aggressive. They moved up a couple spots, right? MJD, one of our good friends. Go get your guys. That's kind of his phrase. That's what they did here. I find it hard, and I'm not a Rams fan, but if I'm in Los Angeles and I'm looking at this team, are we one piece away? Like the margins are so thin, and maybe, look, McDuffie was enough for you as a fan. You say, hey, we helped out our secondary. Maybe that's enough, but I just feel like one more piece. Ty Simpson doesn't have, I love this stat that's out there. You think about the last Super Bowl winning quarterbacks for this century, so last 25 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. An average of 30 starts and over 1,000 passing attempts. That's what you get here. Now we're going to be talking about a Ty Simpson who's not going to play a whole lot of football here for an extended period of time. That's what concerns me when I know I'm this close to winning a Super Bowl. I
mean, look, the list is ugly in terms of quarterbacks who are entering the first round, quarterbacks who are in the league with 15 or fewer starts. It's not a great list. You think about Anthony Richardson. You think about Mitch Trubisky and his struggles, Dwayne Haskins. You even moving up to 16, Mark Sanchez will fall in that category. You move it up to 17, Trey Lance falls into that category. So it's not great. So you have to defy the odds. What you're banking on if you're the LA Rams, I have the best offensive mind in ball, Sean McVay, who gets an opportunity to work with him maybe for 2 years before he has to take the ball and really play. That said, it is a risky proposition. However, the best time to take a quarterback is like when you go to the grocery store. Don't go to the grocery store after we work out and we're hungry, because then we come back, we got a bunch of things in the basket that we ordinarily wouldn't have. If you wait until Matthew Stafford's done, then you're beholden to whatever that quarterback class of that year bears. This gives them a chance to pick the quarterback that they wanted, to develop the quarterback and see what he can be. But yeah, this is the one. This is the biggest boom or bust pick of the first round. Yeah, it's interesting.
There's that old adage, the best time to look for a job is when you have a job. And Absolutely. I think that's kind of where you're going with this. And I know you got kids, and I'm sure you've imparted that Bucky Brooks wisdom on them. It sounds like you're with me. You wouldn't have pulled the trigger on this deal?
I wouldn't have. Okay. Because I didn't see him as that kind of player. I didn't have him graded as a middle of first round player. And when I mean by grade, I didn't have him graded as a guy that would be a starter year 1, year 2. Now, we have seen Jordan Love kind of pull it off, hanging in the pocket of Aaron Rodgers and doing it. The Rams are saying that they can do the same thing that Matt LaFleur did it. Matt LaFleur is part of that tree. Yeah. So maybe there was some consultation between Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur. How do we do this with a young quarterback or whatever? But we'll see what it looks like.
Did the size, though, talk about 6'1" dude, right?
When we talk about the red flags are inexperience, size, injury durability. Those are the red flags. The positives are when you saw him play the first 9 games of last season, lit it up. 21 touchdowns, 1 interception, had some fantastic games. There were 4 games against ranked opponents in a row, carved them up. However, he fell off at the end of the year, and I don't think people talk enough about that. We will see if Ty Simpson is the outlier to defy it. The other thing we'll see is, we'll see what you have to talk about when we come back from the break. All right, now that we're back, Yammer, we can run through it. Anything else that stands out when I look at these picks? I come down, we talked a little bit about these guys. Blake Miller going to Detroit was one that people had kind of talked about. Taylor Decker going out. Monroe Freeland going to Carolina. We've seen that speculated in some mock drafts. I go into the 20s. Max Ahanature going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is a big one. Akeem Messidor going to the Chargers. Casey Concepcion is interesting because you take him and the Browns. Let's talk about that for a minute. Spencer Fanote goes 9. Casey Concepcion. We talked about the Browns, and we knew they had to get 2 things coming out. They had to get an offensive lineman. They need to get a pass catcher. We didn't know what order they were going to go in, but they go and get a big guy and Fanote who can play multiple spots along the line. But Casey Concepcion is the linchpin that will ultimately determine if this first round is successful to the Browns. I loved him as a playmaker. I liked him as a punt returner. I think he can add so much to it, but the hands are a big concern. Were you surprised to see what the Browns did and how they executed the first round?
No, I actually like it. I mean, look, you move down, and I think we should also talk about Kansas City also being aggressive here and filling out some of those needs. But I think what you just brought up about Cleveland makes some sense. There is such a rebuild that's happening right now, and the idea still circling of, how do we just get better? I think Cleveland's in a situation where, like, that is priority number 1 heading into night number 1 of the NFL draft and over the course of the next couple days or so. How do we just add, like, stack wins, right? Like, and that's stacking pieces for this football team. And the fact that Fanote comes in, that's huge. The fact that they're getting another playmaker, which it felt like they were devoid of last year. But I think Cleveland's still major issue centers on something we've talked about the last couple seasons. Who's QB1 for this team? And
you don't like the options, Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson?
Look, I can put my hand up, and no one can see me right now. I give you the Shedeur, wristwatch thing going on, and Watson, who hasn't been out there, in a significant period of time. We just don't even know what we're going to get for him. And when he was out there, it didn't look great. And maybe with a new coach, that changes the trajectory of his career. But I think they're still so far off in my mind that I look at night number 1 of the NFL draft is just trying to stack some wins and get some pieces here.
Yeah, no, that was a big part of what they were trying to do. And you talk about stacking wins and trying to get some pieces. You mentioned Kansas City and the moves that they made to find the players they were to get. One, Mansfield Delane.
You had him as your best corner, right?
I think I did have him in the best corner because the injuries to Jamar McCoy, and he's worthy of being up there, trading up to get him where they got him at 6.
Yep.
That's a big move. And then coming back and getting Peter Woods. To me, we knew coming into the draft that Kansas City had to address the defense. They had a mass exodus of some of the top players going out. Some of that was by design because they didn't want to pay. They get a young, talented corner in Mansfield Delane. I won't quite call him a shutdown corner, but he is refined as they come, polished, diverse skill set. He can do a bunch of different things for them. But Peter Woods is the one that can make this go to another level. The opportunity to put a playmaker, an athletic defensive tackle beside a guy that is a monster of a man in Chris Jones. This is a big one. This is a real big draft for Kansas City. This could help them get back on track.
So I'm with you. The Woods selection definitely makes some sense, but I'm looking at a division with Denver, the Raiders, the Chargers. I think about the quarterbacks. I think about the skill position players. McDuffie gone. By the way, that was, you talk about the success that Kansas City has had. They have done a remarkable job drafting guys that have been able to fit. And I remember being at the pro day for McDuffie, and at Washington, they've turned out so many guys in the secondary, whether it's corners or safeties, that have had a ton of success. And when you talk to that staff, they would have told you at the time, like, Trent was as good as any of them, and the usage for him. But they lose McDuffie, they lose Jalen Watson, they lose Brian Cook, who's now part of Cincinnati. The Delane move to move up, to me, is, as MJD would say, go and get your guy. I love how aggressive they were. There's such a need in that division to help replenish that secondary. So to me, as much as I know you're talking about, some of the pressure that they can get up front, and why Woods is certainly big, to me, the Delane selection is the massive headliner for that team.
Massive headliner, but is it your favorite pick of the draft?
No, my favorite pick of the draft is the Dallas Cowboys at 11 taking Caleb Downs. I thought he was a top 5 guy.
And we're there. I highlighted in yellow the top 5
Is he yours
picks.
too?
And we got, and I have him as number 1. I had Yaoni at 2. I had Sonny Styles at 3. Dylan Thieneman going to Chicago Bears at 4. And Kenyon Sadiq was my 5th most favorite pick in this first round.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't, if you were going to go with 5 selections, I'm surprised that Ruben Bain at 15 going to Tampa Bay, because we thought, at the end of the day, that seems like the right range, but most of the mocks felt like, hey, he could be like that fringe top 10 guy. I think Tampa Bay got a dude here. That's good value.
Look, it's not only good value, it's a really good fit for what they want to do. I think you can sense the frustration from Ty Bowles in terms of how that defense played. The type of style and the stuff they put on tape did not match a typical Ty Bowles defense, and the only way to change it is you got to change some of the personnel. If you want a team that plays hard, you got to get guys to play hard, and there's no disputing how hard Ruben Bain plays. The violence, physicality, it all shows up. Just like the knowledge of all things shows up whenever we have you on the podcast.
No, man, you're the best dude. And I will say this, because I know how much work you put into a lot of the mocks, the evaluations, traveling all over the country, seeing a lot of these college showcases. It was on full display here. I was going to ask you what it's like to get when night number 1 is done in the draft room, like what that feeling is like, because I got to imagine that's kind of what you're feeling right now with night number 1 in the analyst chair being done.
So here's the thing, in the immediate aftermath of the first round concluding, what you do is you sit and maybe for another 30 minutes to an hour, everyone talks about, hey, how are we going to attack the second round? It's just a preliminary discussion because you're still trying to take in all of the events of today, and then you come back in early tomorrow, well ahead of it, you begin to scrimmage out how can the first part of the second round play out? What's that going to impact everything? Who are the people that are open for business when it comes to trades? And it's a general reset. You're looking at who are the players that slip through the cracks that are available now, and you're going to see a run of guys come off the board really quickly that were discussed frequently in the mock draft world about being first-round picks. Those guys will go, and then you reset it, and you get ready for 2 rounds tomorrow, a little quicker. I think it goes down from 8 minutes to 7 minutes.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah.
San Francisco 49ers on the clock, man. They got some time to think about where they're going to go with that first pick in round 2.
Well, look, man, it is a lot of fun to do this with you. Move the sticks. Bucky Brooks, Mike Yam. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Might be me and LZ after the draft is done.